Welcome to You Can't Get to Heaven in a Miniskirt podcast. My name is Jessica.
My name's Sarah.
And if you would like to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/heaveninaminiskirt. And if you would like to follow us on social media, you can go to Instagram at heaveninaminiskirt, and you're going to find all of Sarah's awesome memes.
And on occasion, I'm like, we're not a meme page, but we are now pretty much officially a meme page. But it's fun. It's a whole different group of people on there.
Yeah, and I hope someday they figure out that we're also a podcast, but I think a lot of people don't think we are, and we're just a meme page, and that's okay too. Yeah, it's fun. So that's it. And this is like Sarah's thing today. She did all the research, and I'm going to sit back and relax. So Sarah, what's going on today?
So maybe this episode we'll call You Can't Get to Heaven on a Broomstick.
Ooh.
Today, so last episode, which was the part 1 in this witchy series. If you haven't listened, we talk about the history of witch trials, witchcraft, a little bit about what's in the Bible. And this episode, we're going to be focusing in on modern day witches. So looking more at the 20th and 21st century. And I primarily researched Wicca. But I wanted to start off by asking you, Jessica, when you think of like Wicca, modern day witchcraft, neo-paganism, what kind of comes to your mind?
My answer would have been different a year ago than it is now.
Okay.
So maybe I'll give you both. So a year ago, it would have been very confusing. I would have just been like, these people are weird. In my opinion, a year ago, I was like, witchcraft isn't real. Like, this isn't a real thing. I really just didn't understand how anyone could claim to be a witch, because in my mind, a witch is like Harry Potter. Like, we're not casting spells, like physical spells, like, you know, in Harry Potter. So I would have just been like, I straight up do not understand. Now, I still don't really understand, so I'm really excited to get into this, but I understand that it's less about casting these physical spells and more of a connection with the earth and with emotions and with people. And I think casting spells has a different meaning than what I assumed it did. And I think witches are cool. Basically, I had no idea what it was before, and I thought it was stupid. And now I still don't have any idea, but I think it's cool. So that's a summary.
It is so interesting. And I'll share a lot of resources in the show notes if you're interested. But I started listening to a podcast actually by a witch. And and it's called Seeking Witchcraft. And they're just like short little tidbits, but it was so helpful in being able to understand the context of this, because obviously I'm coming in totally naive to what is Wicca, because, you know, when I was growing up, I feel like they got such a bad rap within Christianity.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're going to get into some focus on the family and gotquestions.org
oh my God,
later. Spoiler alert. But without further ado, let me get into the religion. So I was thinking we'd sort of do an overview of the religion and the history behind it, some of the key figures, and then we can get into some of the views of Christians on this worldview. When we talk about Wicca, there are so many different traditions within Wicca, so I do not have enough time to look into the multiple traditions and every single detail. This is a quick overview. So like I said, if you want to know more, there are so many great sources for learning more about Wicca that I will include in the show notes. But basically, Wicca is, like you said, Jessica, it's a very like nature-based pagan belief system where they tend to be duotheistic. Do you know what that means?
No, I do not.
So where mainstream Wiccans tend to worship the Mother Earth and Father Sky. So they have a god and a goddess. And oftentimes within their covens or groups of witches, the leadership will be like a high priestess and a high priest. So the balance within certain traditions of needing both the masculine and feminine is very important. And Wiccans, many Wiccans, not all of them, practice magic, but they spell it with a K oftentimes to distinguish from like magicians. And so when do you think that Wicca was founded as a religion?
Okay, so Wicca came up in my initial witches research as well, and I believe it was 17th century?
20th.
Oh, so it's way newer than I thought.
Way newer, yeah. And I mean, this is kind of the secular view, but a lot of Wiccans would view it as an older religion dating back to the 17th and 16th centuries.
Oh, okay.
And so this was a theory called the witch cult hypothesis that was popularized by a British archaeologist, Margaret Murray, in the early 20th century. And so she proposed that there was like a pagan fertility cult that had to go underground because of the witch trials, and that they continued practicing in small groups in worshiping nature, using herbalism, and doing fertility rituals until the modern day, and that they were influential in developing modern day Wicca. Okay. And so this has since been discredited, this theory. Most people don't accept that there was an underground group of people that had perpetuated witch-based religion since the witch trial time. That being said, a lot of the elements of Wicca can be traced back to a lot of pagan religions, and a lot of the customs and beliefs they have are older beliefs and older customs that have been used by groups that tend to be very connected with looking at the earth cycles and worshiping nature. So there's a lot of the rituals that would for sure predate the 1950s, but modern day Wicca is more based on the teachings of Gerald Gardner. Have you ever heard of Gerald Gardner?
Oh, yes. And so he, oh God, what about him? He started Wicca, didn't he?
He's called like the father of modern day witchcraft. So
What I remember though is that he always had like a beautiful woman to be like the head witch.
Like the high priestess?
The high priestess, and it seemed like a little weird because it was always like a young, beautiful woman, and then when they got too old, he would replace them with another young, beautiful woman. That's all I remember.
Okay, that's all you remember.
Yeah, just the important stuff.
So Gerald Gardner was born in 1884. So when he was younger, he was like from a decently well-to-do family in England, but he had really bad asthma as a child. He didn't really go to school much, and he had like a nurse or like a nanny take him to a warmer climate abroad, hoping that his asthma wouldn't affect him so badly. So he got to travel all over the world. He became somewhat of like what's the word for like when someone is, they're not trained formally as an anthropologist, but he was like a
hobbyist.
Yeah, like a hobbyist anthropologist essentially. And so he was heavily influenced by different tribes, different groups of people, and the different weapons and things that were used in ceremonial tribes. He spent a lot of time in Borneo.
Where's that?
So Borneo is an island in Asia, and so like he spent quite a bit of time there. The difference with him is when he was spending time learning about different tribes, a lot of the other European people that were there would tend to just watch people do all the work, and they had a superiority complex in a way.
That is shocking.
Shocking, but no, he got really interested in customs. He made friends with a lot of the locals, and he got really interested in their traditions and their practices, and he would join in and do work with them. And so he was influenced by a lot of different people, but it was noted that he was not as racist as his colleagues, and he befriended members of the Dayak indigenous community in Borneo. And he was really fascinated by their use of knives, ceremonial knives, and their use of sort of magic and their beliefs and the tattoos they had. So he ended up collecting ceremonial knives, and he actually had his findings put in the Royal Museum of Singapore, and he was elected as a fellow to the Royal Anthropological Institute in 1936. And so then he traveled to Egypt. And then in the 1930s, he comes back to the UK. One thing that I found that was funny is that he applied for and received a doctorate of philosophy from an organization called the Meta Collegiate Extension of the National Electronic Institute. And it was based in Nevada. And this was known. It's like one of those online universities almost that just gives you PhDs if you pay for it.
Like a diploma mill.
Yeah, it was a diploma mill. And so he got it via post. So he started calling himself Dr. Gardner.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like in the 30s, you could have just made a random piece of paper because really no one's Googling you and seeing if your LinkedIn is legit. But anyway, so Gerald Gardner, father of modern witchcraft, he says that he was not the one that founded Wicca, but he became involved with a group that he calls the New Forest Coven. And so there are debate as to if this existed beforehand or if this was a group that he founded. But what he said is that these women, a group of women, like blindfolded him and like led him somewhere. And then when they took off his blindfold, they initiated him in with they casted a circle and everyone was naked. And so Gardner, he wrote a book called Witchcraft Today, The Meaning of Witchcraft. And these books have been very fundamental in informing the structure of modern day Wicca. And it's referred to as Gardnerian Wicca, but most branches of Wicca all go back to him. He is like I said, the father of modern day witchcraft. And he also had one of his high priestesses that was named Doreen Valiente, who she had a major role in the development of some of the moral code within Wicca. She was the one that created the Wiccan Rede, which is essentially their golden rule. And have you heard of the Wiccan Rede before?
No.
So it emphasizes personal responsibility and non-harm, and it basically says, and in it harm none, do what ye will. And so the modern translation of that is, do what you will as long as it harms no one. That is sort of the ethical guide for Wicca. So like, you do you as long as you're not hurting other people.
Wow. It's a pretty good moral guide.
Yeah, I like it. And then they also have, when we talk about a lot of the rituals, a lot of the intentions they might set or spells that certain Wiccans might do, they also follow what they call the threefold law. And this law says that any energy or intent that you put out into the world, whether it's positive or negative, will return to you threefold. So it's like karma. So it's like if you were to cast a spell that you are causing harm for someone else, then that's going to come back to you 3 times. If you're putting good out into the world, then that's going to come back to you 3 times.
Okay, so it's a very intense version of karma.
Yeah, and so what it's doing is, again, it's reinforcing that sense of personal responsibility and consequences for your actions. So the threefold law, you'll hear about that a lot, but the main moral code is the Wiccan Rede. And Wiccans don't have, it's not like Islam or Christianity or Judaism where there is like one specific text. There is something that is called the Book of Shadows, and that's essentially a book that can vary from Wiccan to Wiccan, where people would write down important spells to them or specific practices that they would like to do, but they have no specific like Bible or religious text. And a lot of Gardnerian teaching is not known to the public because in order to be able to access a lot of the rituals and a lot of the things that they do in terms of practices, you need to be initiated into a coven. And to be initiated typically into a Gardnerian coven, it takes a year and a day. So you're a seeker before that, and you're learning, you're sometimes writing papers, you're reading specific books, you're attending ceremonies, and then you will get initiated into the coven, and then you'll be officially like a witch. And so Wiccans, in terms of their beliefs, they commonly believe in reincarnation for the afterlife. And in terms of their devotional practices, they don't have to worship in groups, but most Wiccans tend to be associated with a coven. And some covens, specifically Gardnerian covens, they will worship in what a way that is called skyclad. That's how they connect with nature. Do you want to know what skyclad is? Or do you have a guess?
Oh, skyclad. Naked.
Yeah, naked.
Oh, look at me.
Yeah,
because I'm like scantily clad. That's all I can think of.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. So skyclad. Yeah. So oftentimes they will have specific ceremonies and practices that go along with the Wheel of the Year. I'm not sure if have you heard of the pagan Wheel of the Year? You've probably heard of some of it.
Probably. Ooh, like, I don't know. No, I don't think so. In your deconstruction process, you would have probably looked all this stuff up.
I had heard of some of the aspects of certain pagan practices being tied in with Christianity to make it more palatable for converting like entire countries to Christianity, like the Roman emperors that did that. But I had never gone into specifically a lot of the practices that are associated with the Wiccan holidays. So they have 8 main holidays, and they center around, so it's the Wheel of the Year, and they center around a story of the goddess and the god. I thought we would start off with like the one that just happened. It's spelled Samhin, but it is pronounced Samhain.
Okay.
this is kind of what would be. So if you were to go to like a store that sells crystals or like know someone that's a little bit witchy, they would probably say like Happy Samhain instead of Halloween. And so this is sort of like where they honor ancestors, the deceased. They think about like bringing like what we call divination. So like calling on like the god or the goddess to come and embody a priest or a priestess. And this is how they welcome the new year. So some of the rituals associated with this would be like lighting bonfires, carving pumpkins, setting up altars. And so the part of the story, so this is the holiday where we're celebrating the cycle of like death and resurrection of life. So Samhain, it marks the Wiccan New Year and the beginning of winter. And it's thought to be a time where the veil between the spiritual and the physical world is thin, allowing communication with spirits. The goddess is seen as the crone representing wisdom, while the god is associated with the dying aspect. So I think it's kind of tied in with winter, where like plants, things are dying, leaves are falling. And so in this story, the god dies. The god, Father Sky or whatever, has died in this yearly cycle. And then it'll make sense as we
Yeah, because I was like,
it.
okay.
And then Yule, which is, have you heard of Yule before?
Yeah, because we talked about it in our Christmas episode.
Yeah, like the Yule log and like Yuletide. And so Yule is typically between December 20th and December 23rd. And this is celebrating winter solstice. And this is where, so like the god had died, but this is the rebirth of the god, of the Father Sky or the sun god.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting that like there's that theme in religions where it's like the god dies and then the god is resurrected.
Yeah, exactly. It's the longest night of the year. But then after the longest night of the year, that's when light starts to increase again. So that's where the sun is returning. It's being reborn. Spring is going to come. And you can really make this as, like, there are some Wiccans actually that don't even believe in deities, and they're really just more connected to the cycles of the earth. So you can have this be as symbolic or as literal as you want, tied into just the yearly cycles.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So then we have Yule, and after Yule comes Imbolc, and this is early February. So February 1st to 2nd, and this is welcoming the first signs of spring and the purification.
That is optimistic, okay? Come on, guys. Fucking beginning of February, you come to Canada. It is not
Maybe in the UK.
Yeah.
Maybe in the UK.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll give Gerald a pass on this one. So oftentimes there are a lot of like cleansing rituals. People are lighting candles. They're making Bridget crosses. And this part of the story is the goddess is seen as a maiden, and the earth is waking up. This goddess is growing in her force. She is blooming, essentially. And then we have Ostara in March 20th to 23rd, and this is the celebration of spring equinox. And the funny thing is, like, Ostara, Easter, like, it sounds very similar. Ostara.
It does.
Ostara
So
and
is this
Easter.
is this
Yeah, this is Easter.
And so is this also derived from anything ancient, or did Gerald make this one up? Okay.
No, these are all derived from ancient.
Like
so this one, this has to do with like fertility and like the balance of day and night. So the day and the night are pretty even at that point. And a lot of the rituals are, you're planting seeds, you're decorating eggs, you might be making offerings to the land. And this is where the goddess and the god are seen as having youthful energy, and we're reflecting the rebirth of nature. And then we get to the spicy part, Beltane.
Okay.
So Beltane is April 30th to May 1st, and this is where the goddess and the god are
Getting it on.
Getting it on. And so this is often a celebration of fertility, and there might be certain rituals that certain Wiccans will do. If someone's been struggling with fertility, to try and put energy towards that, they'll have bonfasters. They'll do bonfires. They'll do hand fasting ceremonies, which is the Wiccan version of weddings.
Bonfasters.
They'll do things where they leap over fires. And so this is really seen as like passion and coming together and just celebrating the vitality of the earth, because by that point the flowers are out, it's spring, everyone's feeling great. And then we have Litha, which is June 20th to June 23rd, and that is the summer solstice, and we're looking at the longest day of the year. And so some of the rituals associated with this are lighting a sacred fire, dancing, making protective amulets, and the god is at the height of his power right here, and the goddess is starting to wane as the days grow shorter.
Okay, yeah. There's like this dichotomy of power, like
Yeah,
it's kind of
exactly.
like
The
going up and
feminine,
down.
the
Okay.
masculine. And then we have Luna Sel, which is celebrated August 1st. And this celebrates the harvest and the sacrifice to God for abundance. So some of the rituals, there'll be feasts and baking bread. And in this one, this is where the god sacrifices himself to ensure abundance of harvest. And then the goddess is seen as like Earth's bounty. And then we have the last one is Mabon, and this is September 20th to 23rd. And this is seen as honoring the second harvest, and it's the balance of light and dark. And some of the rituals would be harvest fests and giving thanks to the earth's bounty. So we might see this as like similar to our Thanksgiving. And then the god is in the decline, and the goddess prepares for the crone stage, symbolizing the changing of seasons and the cycle of life. So that is the wheel. And
It's interesting because, yeah, like people might look at the pagan wheel and be like, that's weird. But then even secular people do all the same holidays. Like society is doing all of this. It's just a little less to do with like gods and goddesses and more to just be like, let's get the family together and bitch about politics.
yeah, exactly. And like Wiccans, so some people call themselves witches and practice with energy and spells, but they are not Wiccans. But all Wiccans are witches.
So not all witches are Wiccans, but all Wiccans are witches.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Because I was also going to ask that because how many witches really identify as Wiccans? Like, probably quite a few, but
I think quite a few, but there are also people that are just interested in witchcraft that sort of do their own practice. And I think, a lot of the things that we see used in modern day Wicca are pretty popular out in just like general secular society now. Like a lot of people are interested in like, oh, like the cycle of the moon, crystals, tarot cards, burning sage.
yeah, that's because the devil has infiltrated society and
Definitely, right?
Jesus is going to come back soon. And it's just,
Yeah, and so I mean they'll use like a lot of like mindfulness and visualization. So even if you look at practices like manifestation, so like manifestation would be like a part of that. I also had found some common myths and misconceptions about witches, which I thought would be
yes.
interesting to share. So the first one was that witches are evil, and so Wicca opposes harmful magic and discourages hurting others, like with the threefold rule. And literally, like in their like one moral code, it is like do what you will, but don't harm others. So they're really concerned about just using white magic, which is an actual term. It's not just from
Okay, it's not just from Shimmer and Shine.
Shimmer and Shine. Yeah. Oh my God.
White magic and dark magic. So that's actually real. Okay.
Yeah, that's actually
Not just
real.
from Shimmer and Shine.
And I think a lot of it has to do with, from what I understand, a lot of it has to do with intent. Like white magic would be used for positive purposes, such as like healing, providing good in someone's life, versus like anything that's negative would be the dark magic.
Right. And it's interesting because within Christianity, it's imperative that all witches are evil. That is like, it has to be that way because they're doing magic, and if it's not Jesus, it's evil.
And I mean, they would say that about every religion, right?
Yeah. But I feel like, honestly, even in a secular society, people that I know that have never even set foot in a church, they probably have a negative bias.
Yeah, where it's like it's such a peaceful religion, and it's so connected to the earth and mutual respect, and it's wild that is actually like such a misconception, but that probably has to do with the Judeo-Christian influence on our culture and witch hunts and just the history surrounding it, right?
Yes, exactly.
So Wicca is an ancient religion. We've already touched on that myth because it's a modern revival with a lot of ancient influences and ancient belief systems, and they are not the first one to be using the pagan calendar. So it's reviving a lot of paganism, but it is a modern religion.
Right.
And it's recognized as a religion in a lot of different countries. Another myth is that witches worship the devil, and they do not worship the devil, and they don't believe in hell. So, and they definitely they don't even necessarily believe that there is a devil, right? But one of the reasons why people assume that Wiccans worship the devil is because they have the god and the goddess, but the god that they worship, Father Sky, is like a horned god. Sometimes they call him the horn god, and sometimes people think that the horns are like comparative of like assuming that it's like a demon or the devil or Lucifer or whatever.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, another one that I remember growing up hearing like, oh no, like the witches are gonna, like try and get black cats so they can sacrifice them. Yeah, so Wiccans are not allowed, they're not allowed to sacrifice animals.
Okay,
like
that's
they
good.
respect all living things. A lot of them are actually vegetarian. And in the podcast I listen to, oftentimes in order to make a wand, what you'll often do is you'll go to a tree and you'll ask the tree permission to take one of its branches, and then because that still has life in it, but you have to get the consent of the tree or like whatever, you have to be respectful to the tree to ask to take the branch. So like they're not sacrificing animals.
Yeah, absolutely not.
I mean, very peaceful.
To be fair, I would never, like, knowing what I know now about the world, people would not be okay with people killing cats.
But we're good with human sacrifice and Christianity.
At least in the past. Yeah.
In the past,
Yeah.
The once and for all. Anyway,
Yeah,
it's nice. We're not talking about Christianity as much today. It's nice.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
And then there's also like the myth that Wiccans have a dark Bible, but they just use their personalized book of shadows, and it's not a universally followed scripture.
Yeah, it's funny that the misconceptions are literally just like, why don't you fucking Google it? And you'll find out that none of this is true.
Yeah, and so then we'll get into different types of Wicca. So I had already mentioned Gardnerian Wicca, which was founded by Gerald Gardner, hence the name. And this one, it's a very structured system, and it's based on initiation, sets of rituals, tools, and a hierarchy within the coven. So it's that deotheistic worship, and it has very specific rituals and practices that are handed down through initiation.
Okay.
We get to Alexandrian Wicca, and so this was founded by Alex Sanders and his wife Maxine Sanders. I think he was like a contemporary of Gerald Gardner, but they had additional influences and they incorporate more ceremonial magic. It's less structural. And then there is Dianic Wicca, and this focuses solely on the worship of the goddess, and it emphasizes the divine feminine. There are some groups that actually don't even allow men to be part of the coven.
Good, as it should be.
Yeah, yeah, and there are some groups that don't allow you to be part of the coven if you're not a lesbian. So, so Dianic Wicca, it was heavily influenced by feminism, and like I said, they are just worshiping the divine feminine.
Okay,
that's just like a few of the branches, but there are a bunch of different ones. Do you have any thoughts, questions?
So, like you said, not all witches are Wiccans, but all Wiccans are witches. In terms of your research, you probably don't have this percentage, but pull it out of your ass. What percentage do you think of witches are Wiccans, or maybe subscribe to a more structural religion of witchcraft?
I think it's really hard because even from my research, I feel like there's not a lot of data. A lot of countries don't include Wicca as an option on their census, but I think in terms of if we're looking at people with an interest in the occult, astrology, tarot cards, I think there would be or Ouija boards, like I think there would be a much larger percentage of people that would engage on some level with some of these sort of pagan or occult practices. I think there'd be a lot of, for instance, like I know a yoga teacher who does a lot of like new moon ceremonies, but I don't think she's a Wiccan.
Yeah, and some people will do these things and not even consider themselves to be a witch either.
Right.
So that's interesting. I do have a friend that does new moon ceremonies, and I don't think she considers herself a witch, but she definitely likes witchy stuff.
Yeah, and I think witchy stuff is like trendy now. And I mean, I think that the cool part of Wicca, like I feel like a lot of it is like taking back that divine feminine, regardless of if you believe in it or not. It's way more balanced. It's not just patriarchal. It involves like the balance between the masculine and the feminine, and it looks at the cycles. It's very connected to the earth. So I think a lot of those things are appealing to our generation because it's not a specific text that it's like, God wrote this text and you need to follow this.
And no fun allowed.
No fun, yeah.
As millennials, we were born into a world that we thought held a lot of promise, but then doesn't. So now we are left to like reconnect to the earth to find meaning, because when things all went to shit when we were kids, And I can just see why this is appealing to millennials because, you know, in relation to like Gen X or Gen Z, we had a very specific trajectory as kids where, like I said, we were born into a world where they're like, you can be anything and like the economy's great and like Bill Clinton's the best.
And our parents were boomers, so they had just like lived in this time of amazing abundance and opportunity.
Bought a house for $6 and, you know, and so we feel obviously very disillusioned. So I can see why witchy things are really popular because we're disillusioned with the world that we've been given. So we're like, we need to reconnect with this earth.
And I think even in terms of like of deconstruction too, like the Wiccan read fits so well with deconstruction because like it's not giving you a guide or a prescription for like the details of your sex life or like what you're doing on a Friday night. It's just literally like, do what you're gonna do, but don't harm other people. Like I think that kind of sums up what I would want as a moral code. And in a way, I think it's better than the golden rule because the golden rule is treat others how you want to be treated. Maybe you don't want to be treated how you want to be treated. Maybe you're like, just like don't hurt them. And even the threefold rule, like if every Christian or if every human literally believed that the good they were putting out there was going to come back to them threefold, or that the bad they were putting out there, then they would be punished 3 times that. To me, that makes a lot more sense than eternal damnation for like one sin. It just like, I think this is just like a system that like, I think a lot of people could get behind because they're like, this makes sense. I want some sort of meaning, some sort of connection. And we've all had that sense of connection to the earth when you're, or the sky, like when you're outside and you're looking at the stars, or like we all want that meaning and connection. I can see why this would be appealing for a lot of people. And I can see why it would be scary for Christians.
So as a Christian, I do remember, I think like vaguely remember like learning about Wicca and vaguely learning that like it wasn't this evil thing that you thought it was, and realizing that, oh, well, if I've been lied to about this, what else have I been lied to about? What else should I look into? And well, sometimes that starts
that gets the ball rolling.
Yeah, on deconstruction.
And it's less prescriptive, right? It's less rigid. It's less...
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, they like the rules. It's comfortable to know, like the black and the white.
I don't think not everyone needs that structured religion. I certainly don't. But there are people that really, they thrive in a structure and they thrive in a community as long as it doesn't get culty. Like, I'm not going to complain about that. As long as the coven leaders or the high priests and priestesses aren't taking advantage of people, then... And it's funny because I don't think I've ever heard a Wicca scandal before, unless they're keeping their secrets tight to their chest.
And they're humans, so I'm sure that I'm sure every group has some sort of scandal. But at the end of the day, I can see why it's appealing. I personally, like, because I was researching this and I was like, if I had learned about this at a different time, maybe when I was like 20, I could definitely see myself like being more pulled in. But I could totally see you. I have no interest in organized religion at this point, but I did find learning about the spirituality really interesting, and like I like the Wiccan read. Like that's something that I'll definitely want to just like think of as a moral code to follow now. Sums up everything. Like, do no harm. This could
be your rebuttal to all the Christians in our comments that say atheists have no moral code. You could just say, well, Wiccan has a moral code. It's better than your fucking moral code.
Yeah.
Which is evangelize at all costs, it seems.
And so we have like 2 more parts. First, we're going to get into, I have this article and I kind of just like want to read through it. I think you reading through it would be like just funny.
Okay.
Yeah, here we go. And so this is from Focus on the Family.
Oh, no! Sarah!
Which is, like, marginally better than gotquestions.org.
Is it really? Like, okay, so which one is more, like, conservative Christian? Because I always thought Focus on the Family was going to be way more conservative.
They're both pretty fucking conservative, I would say. But, Focus on the Family, they had one article I read, like, this is a total aside, on, like, my child is gay. Should I go to their wedding? Like, we let them come over for dinner with their same-sex pseudo-partner.
Pseudo-partner?
They didn't actually say that. I'm just making fun of. Yeah. I'm making fun of living out, like always. And so... And they were like, well, like, it's really, like, up to you, but you really need to think about the implications. So they didn't give, like, a hard and fast answer. I have a really low bar, though. They're shitty.
Bar is the lowest. So, okay, we got this article here from Focus on the Family called What Does God Think About Witchcraft? So it's a long article. Do you want me to just start it out and see how See at which point I freak out? Okay.
Oh my God. No, there's so much. Okay. I just got to read this part first. Like, I just gave you part of the article, and the full article is called The Hidden Traps of Wicca. But there's one part that says the subheading is girl power. And it's like, according to its own myths, Wicca began more than 35,000 years ago within the Earth's very first civilization. In this culture, women ruled. Life was peaceful and prosperous, and people worshipped nature and the goddess. Today, Wiccans claim that there is a goddess revival. They say that women are reclaiming their power under male domination for far too long. They call for women to usher in an era of peace by throwing off the shackles of male-dominated and monotheistic religions such as Christianity and follow the goddess again in all her forms.
Sounds nice.
It's easy to see why this myth has huge feminist appeal. Yes, it is.
What's wrong with that? Okay, literally everything that you just said is like, oh, that sounds really great. Okay. What does God think about witchcraft? Point number 1 is the spiritual world is real, and so is Satan. One thing Wiccans have right is that there's a supernatural world that interacts constantly with the world we see, touch, and smell. Unfortunately, they believe it's okay for humans to interact with spirits and spiritual forces any way we choose. To the contrary, the Apostle Paul writes that the spiritual realm is potentially dangerous. Therefore, we need to treat it the way that God tells us to and be prepared for spiritual battles of good versus evil. Okay, so then it goes to Ephesians 6, verse 12 to 13. It says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the power of this dark world, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything, to stand." Moving on, many Wiccans say that Wicca is harmless and nature-loving. That has nothing to do with evil, Satanism, and dark forces. But that's exactly what Satan wants them to believe.
It's Satan.
There we go.
It's not us, so it's Satan.
There we go. Intent on deceit, Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light, says Paul. It's not surprising, then, if his servants masquerade as servants of righteousness. Paul says that if they don't turn towards God and repent, their evil will be what their actions deserve. Okay, like, how many fucking times are we going to talk about fucking Paul?
And you know what Jesus said? Jesus said that you'll know a vine by its fruit. And then I think Paul brought in the fruits of the Spirit. What is the Christian fruit? The Crusades, witch trials.
Oh, what about the residential schools? Don't forget about
residential
those.
Schools, molestation and oppression of that.
The fruits. The fruits are ripe.
Maybe that's Satan. Maybe that's of the devil. Just saying.
No fucking shit. All right. Okay, should I keep going? So we just talked about the spiritual world, and now they're saying we should worship God, not his creation. They go too far when they're worshiping nature, apparently.
Okay, I'm kind of like jumping into the next one, but it says don't try to contact or control supernatural forces. And it's like the Bible is very clear that any other form of supernatural contact, other than prayer, of course, is forbidden. So it's like, oh, it's okay when you're using our brand, but we can't use the other brands.
Oh, look, it says, in other words, there's no such thing as white magic.
And then it goes on to say, the Bible says, let no one be found among you who sacrifices his son or daughter in fire, who practices divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft, or casts spells. Mm-hmm. The funny part of this, though, God, Daddy God, who is saying this right here, literally sacrificed his own son. That was his plan. He broke his own rule.
Well, remember when told Moses to sacrifice all the little kids, all the little girls?
And remember when remember when he told Abraham to sacrifice Isaac? Well, but he was just joking. It was just a joke. Oh my God. Can't take a joke. God was just being funny. He was just a little jealous and insecure, and he just wanted to know.
And then he's like, oh, I take it back.
Oh man, I just fuck, I can't with this article, man.
And then it says, Jesus is the source of real power. Many Wiccans are critical of the church's view of women. Yeah. They claim that Christianity does not empower women, whereas Wicca does. While it's true that some Christians have distorted God's word and not honored women, the Bible says that men and women are equally important in the eyes of God. Yeah, okay. The Bible says all sorts of shit. Do you follow it? Not really. Because God places such a high value of women as bearers of his image, Christianity honors women in a way that's unique. Come on. It's unique. You don't get it.
Yeah, I have firsthand experience that unique honoring, and I can fucking tell you it is not equal.
No, yeah.
Not all Christians. I'm getting a little fired up here with this focus on the family. Obviously, there are Christians that are feminists and egalitarian.
Yeah. Caveat.
We're not talking
Everyone
about
who's here, I think, at this point knows that we're not talking about all Christians. We should start each episode with 600 caveats, but people will still come on our Instagram and tell us that we're the worst people in the world. Okay, so next is we don't need to make up our own rules. In Wicca, each follower is told to do as she wills. Oh, she. Interesting. Their only standard is that no one should do harm. In other words, there is no absolute truth. But this presents several problems. I'm sure it does. Yeah. Okay, focus on the family. Okay, first, how can one be sure that no harm is being done? Is there any way to know all the consequences of an action? No. And aren't personal feelings a wishy-washy method of determining right and wrong? Oh, listen, this is great. What if a witch one day feels that incest or murder is the right thing to do? Is there anything to stop him?
Yes, because that would be harm. That would be harm. Oh my God. You don't need a book to know that that's fucking harm. Ugh.
Because they want this hard and fast rule, but the Bible doesn't even give them a hard and fast rule.
No, because Christians use the Bible for good, for harm, to justify all kinds of things. Like,
I know.
Christians who interpret the Bible wrong, as they said, and did not honor women appropriately. Like, you're talking about your interpretation, focus on the family, but like everybody else and their dog has their own interpretation.
And also, I'm pretty sure the focus on the family is like one of the worst perpetrators of this shit. So
we got that.
Yeah, so we have that focus on the family article that we'll put in the show notes if anybody else wants to get infuriated.
And then I also have gotquestions.org.
Oh my God.
So I'm gonna just send that to you. It's the justifications. It's funny, like the things that certain theologians will point out about other groups, but then for their own religion, like if I were to point out, like, well, is like bloodshed for forgiveness, like why is that a good thing? But I mean, obviously we have no other reason not to just like commit murder and be horrible people, right?
Yeah, we need the book. Yeah, without the Bible, we're just murderous, pillaging freaks.
And it's such like a low view of humanity, to be honest.
These Christians that say this do have a low view of humanity. They think that everyone's a sinner and everyone's dirty and disgusting and horrible and grotesque. So now gotquestions.org has their Wicca article. Is there a title to it, or are they just like, this is what Wicca is?
What is Wicca? Is Wicca witchcraft?
Is Wicca witchcraft? Okay. Wicca is a belief system that Gerald Gardner cobbled together in 1940s and 50s from a variety of religious traditions and beliefs, as well as Freemason rituals.
First, they're accusing, like in the first paragraph, they're accusing and saying, oh, they're worshiping more than one deity because they have the god and the goddess. But Christians worship the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, which to me is...
But that's 3 in 1. It's all one person. There's 3 things, and...
Yeah. Like, whatever loophole...
Apparently, it's easily explainable, but not actually.
Yeah, it's like body wash, shampoo, and fucking conditioner.
It's like 3 in 1, shampoo, conditioner, body wash. So, they mentioned the reed, do what ye will, harm you none. At first blush, the reed seems like complete, uninhibited personal license. You can do whatever you want as long as no one gets hurt.
Okay.
However, Wiccans are quick to point out that the ripple effect of one's actions can carry far-reaching consequences. They articulate this principle in the threefold law, which says all good that a person does to another returns threefold. Okay, we talked about that.
So Wicca is a religion that is about minding your own business and living peaceably with your neighbors and environment.
Oh my God. I can't imagine why that would be an issue.
This is such a great criticism of
I know,
Wiccans.
it's like Wicca, like it seems pretty good, but apparently not. Like,
yeah.
Okay, God questions got a little confused here, but okay, now they're saying let's evaluate the beliefs in light what God says about them. Okay, we're going to look into the Bible. What does the Bible say? Let's dive in. Wicca spells are idolism. Romans 1:25 says they exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worshipped and served created things rather than the creator. Who wants to settle for second best? In Isaiah 40, God paints a picture of how much greater the creator is than his creation. If you are worshiping anything besides the creator, you are not only spinning your wheels, you are guilty of idolatry. Yeah. Wiccan spells bring false hope. You know what brings false hope?
What?
God.
Do you know? No.
What?
There's only one true hope.
What?
It's Jesus.
Yeah.
Everyone else is wrong, and everyone else is Satan.
Yeah, and praying to Jesus has gotten us... Look at us as a society. Look how far we've come.
This is great. Wicca is a religion that takes a pack of lies, ties it in a romantic ribbon, and searches out a well-intentioned but lazy, gullible mark to sell its hollow doctrines. Stop. Wow. I want to get a shirt that says that.
Yeah, you should say that and then just cross out Wicca and put Christianity. I feel like fuck. I feel like they're literally like everything that they're describing in this. Because it's like Wiccan spells brings false hope. They bring disillusionment. Wicca is they're just trying to find gullible people to believe in their religion. I'm like, you're literally doing this. It's like they're looking in a mirror, but don't realize that they're looking in a mirror.
And I guarantee that the Wiccans aren't writing that shit about Christians. Because they just mind their own business and live peacefully with those around them and the earth. Like,
yeah.
How could that not be a better thing?
Wicca witchcraft is a sin and God hates it. Why? Because it's an attempt to cut off our dependence on God and get answers apart from him. Sin isn't just a heinous, socially disagreeable action. Sin is our decision to disagree with God on any topic, to rebel against him. Sin is saying, God, I want to live my life my way. This is the definition of hell, the absence of God presence. That's what our sin... Wow, you know what? I have an absence of God in my life. My life is not hell.
And so... There's also, we're going to like do a hard pivot right now. And there are witches that identify as Christian witches. And there are multiple books that you can literally go out there and buy. Obviously, these are not the Christians that are writing these articles on Focus on the Family and GotQuestions.org.
Oh my God.
I'm sure that they would say that these humans practicing that are heretics.
How did this come to be Christian witches?
So basically, like, there's no one agreed upon way to be a Christian witch. And I don't think from my research that there are typically, like, Christian witch covens. It seems to be something that people are doing, like, more solitarily. But they basically take their traditions of Wicca and sort of merge it with Christianity.
I find that interesting. The need to do that. That's fascinating to me.
There are kind of, like, 10 rituals that are shared in The Path of a Christian Witch by Adelina St. Clair. And so in this book, she shares 10 different rituals that help her combine Christianity and Wicca. And she also spends pretty much the first 2/3 of the book talking about how to live with like the tension of these things being seemingly contradictory. And then like I feel like her sharing the rituals is how she makes sense of bringing the two traditions together.
Yeah, this is like the ultimate cognitive dissonance.
She would worship like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So that would be the threefold God. And then the threefold goddess that she would worship would be the maiden, the mother, and the crone, from the wheel that we got into earlier, talking about the wheel of the Wiccan calendar.
Okay.
She said, when I do the sign of the cross, kind of like Catholics might do, she said, I began with the male Trinity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, as in my tradition. I then touch my heart and my lips and move to my forehead when I whisper the name of the goddess. In my heart is Mary, the mother, the bleeding heart, the one who loved her son with every breath, in strength and simplicity. And my lips is the apostle of the apostles, Mary Magdalene. It was her voice that spread the joy of the resurrection, and it was with her lips that she kissed the feet of our Lord. From there, I lift my thoughts to Sophia, the essence of divine wisdom, the feminine spirit of God that inspires us and lifts us up. For her, the God and the goddess are parallel trinities, and she's deified Mary, mother of Jesus, and Mary Magdalene. And then Sophia, which is described in the Proverbs by Solomon as wisdom, like wisdom personified is named Sophia.
Okay.
And so oftentimes, like, people will say that would be the Spirit of God, but I guess that's her kind of feminine counterpart to the Holy Spirit. And she said, one of the reasons why I walked away from traditional Christianity was to find the great goddess. Like my God, she is a woman of many faces. She is Athena, the warrior maiden, Ceridwen, the conjurer of magic, Isis, the guardian of life, and the Morrigan destroyer and warlord. She is the warrior woman of the Torah, the matriarchs, the Blessed Virgin, and the mystic. She is bounty of this earth and the giver and the sustainer of life. She is all around us. How could I cast her aside? She is everywhere.
Okay, so it's like Christianity, Greek mythology.
Yeah, so she's like reconnecting with the divine feminine. And so I guess she also has her own kind of creed. And so I'll just read this creed to kind of sum up the Christian witch experience as said by Adelina St. Clair.
Okay.
I believe in unity in diversity. I believe in the holiness of Christ, his mission, and his teachings. I believe in the sacred polarity of the universe manifested to us in the male-female reality. I believe in God as a verb, the process of ever-fulfilling creation. I believe in the quality of life, in the magic of intent and reciprocity, in the power of thought, and in the universal consciousness. I believe in manifestation of the will. I believe in the sacredness of the earth and its cycles and rhythms. I believe that I am a sacred process in God's creation and a creator in the quantum earth field. I believe in love, always above all. I believe that we have a reason to have hope and faith, and that we are made to rejoice in the greatness of all things. Blessed be, and peace with you always.
Like, that none of this sounds bad, but I'm so... Who has the fucking time for this? Like, this would be... Okay, so you would work your 9 to 5, and then this would be your 5 to midnight.
May I just point out that some people might say, who has the time for a deconstruction podcast? I think people can do whatever they want with their time. And like, I have more respect and interest in someone that's like looking at all a diverse slew of different existing traditions, and then just like taking what they will and making sense of it and doing what feels right for them, as long as they're not hurting other people.
Do you think that a lot of people follow this? Like, this was a book, obviously.
Yeah.
How many copies do you think she sold?
Well, let's look on Amazon. I mean, she has 402 ratings and it's 4.6 stars.
Wow. Okay, yeah. So at least 402 people have read it and
really liked it, right?
That's so fascinating. I think the most fascinating part is that there's a market for this.
Well, I think back to when we met with Emma, who is the one that's doing the Queer and Catholic Oral History Project, and she mentioned a little bit about people who had combined paganism with Catholicism. I think this is actually a really typical human thing to do. This happened within Christianity. This is why we celebrate Easter and Christmas, because when the Roman Emperor declared that Christianity was now the religion of the state, they adapted some of the traditions and Christianized them to make it an easier transition for people. And I think people naturally do this. Look at our whole fucking society. There's no reason that we like celebrate Christmas and Easter and that we have this very like Christianity centric calendar that we follow. But we do it without question. And even if you're not a Christian, it just continues, right? So I think this is actually a really human thing to do. And I think what I like about this is the flexibility to merge different traditions and to take the pieces of things that you want. This goes really in with deconstruction if you think about it. And to us, this might seem laughable, but like if someone is finding meaning and they're saying like, I feel like what was missing in Christianity for me was the divine feminine, was that piece. Like, I don't believe in God, but like whatever people want to do. I don't think it's any more or less reasonable than believing in Christianity, to be honest.
No, but sometimes I just want to talk shit about people, Sarah.
I know. And sometimes I just want to try and articulate the human experience with non-judgment, Jessica.
I guess we have two different goals today.
Yeah, man. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed researching this. I will be totally honest. I enjoyed researching Wicca more than Christian witches. And I didn't really get super through those books because I just think Wicca is super fascinating. And contrary to the views of... How did they articulate that again? I got to just get that line up there. Cause...
The Got Questions one?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Let's bring that back. It said, Wicca is a religion that takes a pack of lies, ties it in a romantic ribbon, and searches out a well-intentioned but lazy and gullible mark to sell its hollow doctrines.
There are so many logical fallacies in that sentence that I just can't even... But
I love that. That person who wrote that is so fucking mad. You can feel like the seething hatred through the words.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, they're so mad.
It's just so self-contradictory, that article, because on one hand they're like, they're very peaceful and they live in harmony with the environment and other people.
But fuck you.
But they're fucking lazy.
Yeah, and they're all stupid and gullible and lazy. Nothing about their doctrine is dangerous, like ours, but...
You know what's lazy? Childlike faith. We're flipping here. I'm being a little less charitable.
Let's talk shit. Go, Sarah.
Childlike faith is lazy.
That is
being
lazy,
don't ask questions. We honor women in our own special way. Yeah, we've seen the implications of that bullshit.
We honor women. Women are also people.
Women are a special class of people. We value them. We just don't give them the same rights.
We just think that they're not as good as men. That's all.
Yeah. They just shouldn't be in positions of leadership.
Equal but different.
On that train of thought, I'm going to just read you one comment that came up on Instagram.
Oh,
I was
no.
looking at notifications and it came up and I was just like,
Yeah, sometimes the notifications we get are just so golden that we text them to each other. I mean, I haven't been on Instagram in a while, but some of them are so good.
but this one here.
Okay. What post is it?
It's one of your videos. It's screenshotted. Oh, equal but different.
Oh, yeah, where I'm like, equal but different is stupid, essentially. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He said, women leaders get pissy and spiteful and start wars at a higher rate. Patriarchy don't lead civilization to its death at half the rate.
What the fuck? See,
Yeah.
You can say fucking anything you want on the internet.
Yeah.
Yes, matriarchal societies, we do tend to cause more wars. Yes, all the matriarchal societies that are on the earth, all the wars are from that. 100%.
You heard it, folks, from Instagram, from our comment section.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
This is factual information, people.
Yeah. We are going to circle back now to story time with Sarah before we wrap up. We didn't do too many rabbit holes. It feels like it was
actually quite straightforward, yeah.
But I think Wicca just didn't really make me angry. It was more like the commentary on Wicca.
Actually, very astute observation. I actually quite liked this episode. I was not angry until we got to the God questions thing. I'm going to leave this episode feeling quite peaceful. And that normally doesn't happen. I usually feel sad. So, story time with Sarah. Welcome to Story Time with Sarah. Sit back, relax, and enjoy a story from our favorite book, the Bible.
So here we are, Proverbs 8. So pick up your sword.
It's up. Got it.
And I'm going to go, do I dare do the King James?
I don't think I'll understand the King James. Do one that, I will understand.
We'll just stick with the NIV. Okay.
Okay.
So this is wisdom's call. And so the personification of wisdom, Sophia. And why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because the Christian witch in her book mentioned that Sophia is like the feminine counterpart in the female trinity. So Sophia was the feminine counterpart to the Holy Spirit. And so this is the part. So does not Sophia call out? Does not understanding raise her voice? At the highest point along the way where the paths meet, she takes her stand. Beside the gate leading into the city at the entrance, she cries aloud. To you, O people, I call out. I raise my voice to all mankind. You who are simple, gain prudence. You who are foolish, set your hearts on it. Listen, for I have worthy things to say. I open my lips to speak what is right. My mouth speaks what is true. For my lips detest wickedness. All the words of my mouth are just. None of them is crooked or perverse. To the discerning, all of them are right. They are upright for those who have found knowledge. Choose my instruction instead of silver, knowledge rather than the choice gold. For wisdom is more precious than rubies, and nothing you desire can compare with her. I, Sophia, dwell with the prudence. I possess knowledge and discretion. To fear the Lord is to hate evil. I hate pride and arrogance, evil behavior, and perverse speech. Counsel and sound judgment are mine. I have insight, I have power. By me kings reign, and rulers issue decrees that are just. By me princes govern, and nobles, all who rule the earth. I love those who love me, and those who seek me find me. With me are riches and honor, enduring wealth and prosperity. My fruit is better than fine gold, and what I yield surpasses choice silver. I walk in the way of righteousness, along the path of justice, bestowing a rich inheritance on those who love me, and making their treasuries full. The Lord brought me forth as the first of his works. Before his deeds of old, I was formed long ago, at the very beginning, when the world came to be. When there was no watery depth, I was given birth. When there were no springs overflowing with water. Before the mountains were settled in place, before the hills, I was given birth. Before he made the world, or its fields, or any dust of the earth, I was there when he set the heavens in place. When he marked out the horizon on the face of the earth, when he established the clouds, fixed securely the fountains of the deep, blah, blah, blah. She was there. She was there. And
she was fucking there.
What she's saying. She was fucking there. She was there. So then I am constantly at his side. I was filled with delight day after day, rejoicing always in his presence, rejoicing in his whole world, and delighting in mankind. Now then, my children, listen to me. Blessed are those who keep my ways. Listen to my instruction and be wise. Do not disregard it. Blessed are those who listen to me, watching daily at my doors, waiting at me for the doorway. For those who find me find life and receive favor from the Lord. but those who fail to find me harm themselves. All who hate me love death. Okay.
Oh my God, Sarah, the Bible is so fucking boring. Like, thank God you didn't read the King James Version. I think I would have died of boredom.
That was the NIV.
So why did you choose this? Is a good question.
So why did I choose Sophia, the character of personified wisdom? Yeah. Because I can see where the Christian witch was going with this. She was his counterpoint part. She was there with God in the beginning. She rejoices in God's presence. I can see how this spirit of wisdom could be seen as... I actually, when I was younger, I remember reading about wisdom personified as Sophia and asking a pastor when I was a teenager, why is there not another person in the Trinity? Because this seems like a person. And they're like, that's just God's wisdom. We don't need a woman. We don't need a woman in there.
Yeah. Of course not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Little budding feminist.
So why did
Sarah.
I include that? I included that because, you know what? I can see where a Christian witch would want to find that and pull out the feminine. Because you know what? I think that whether Christianity or GotQuestions.org or Focus on the Family acknowledges it, I think that they could use more feminine traits injected into God the Father, because unfortunately I think God the Father is a piece of work.
I was like, what are you going to say, Sarah? What are you going to say?
I think God the Father is a piece of work, and I think that maybe he could use a wife.
That's fair. Like Mrs. Claus, like Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus.
Yeah, like Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus. I know that's so heteronormative, and there are actually like some debates within modern strains of Wicca that a lot of people that are like LGBT are like, this is too like gender binary-ish, and like where do intersex and non-binary people fit in? I think that's the question that all of society is asking now and deconstructing, and great. It's too hyper-masculine. Christianity could definitely use more feminine.
More Sophia.
That is it. That is all.
Wow.
So what did you learn today, Jessica?
Oh my God, my brain is just a pile of mush right now. I learned all about Wicca, which was very interesting, and I find it way more like positive and light and happy and gives me better feelings than I imagined it would. I think within Christianity, just like a lot of things that aren't Jesus, it just gets a bad rap because no one bothers to actually look into it. And they're like, I'll just listen to what my pastor says about it. And if he says it's evil, then it's evil. And that's fair. That is the trap that some people fall into. And then I learned, I learned about Wicca. And then I learned about what Focus on the Family and GotQuestions.org thought about Wicca, which was unsurprising and funny. And then the Christian witches, which was the weirdest part of the episode. And then I kind of zoned out during story time with Sarah. I'm sorry. I don't really understand poetry. It makes me tired and my brain starts to go, and then I...
Yeah, and I mean, it was less riveting, but I just pulled that story out of my ass.
No, it was good, because you had mentioned it before, so no, it
ties in.
It was a good choice. What did you learn during your research, Sarah?
Along a similar line, I feel like the religion of Wicca is, I would say I find it personally more appealing than Christianity, though I do not have the desire to rejoin organized religion or any sort of deism.
Yes.
Or theism or
Eism.
duotheism.
Anything with an ism.
Any isms. I'm just gonna I guess agnosticism. I'm just gonna stay outside and I'm gonna look and I'm gonna be like, oh hey, you're living in peace and not doing harm. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
But the Wiccan read. I like deconstruction and I like learning about different traditions because, you know, as humans, we can take the pieces that we want, that are valuable, and we can leave what is less valuable. Like I might take the Sermon on the Mount from Christianity and leave a whole lot of the rest of it. I will take the Wiccan read and I will pass on the use of magic. And for whatever reason, I feel like Ouija boards would still freak me out, even though I don't believe in any of that.
Look, there are parts of Wicca or witchcraft that tie into like the horror movie scenario that I am too scared to even think about. Yeah.
So if you are a witch or a Christian witch or a Wiccan or a neo-pagan practicer, reach out. We are very interested to hear your point of views. I apologize if I did not accurately portray something. Like, let us know if there's something that we didn't portray properly. Again, this is just a quick overview, and there's a lot to unpack here.
A quick overview from a Christian deconstruction view. But also, if we said something that's inaccurate, please let us know. We love DMs, and you can DM us, or you can find our contact form on our website.
If you want to know more, in the show notes, there are tons of resources, books, websites, where you can learn from Wiccans and Christian witches about their specific traditions and practices and beliefs.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Thank you. Have a witchy day.
Yeah, you can get to heaven on a broomstick.
You can, yes. Okay, bye-bye.
But there's reincarnation. Bye.